Ah, let's get a frog in my throat when I first start doing the stream. Why do they call it that? Why is it a frog in your throat? It's a weird saying. I'm not sure where it came from. Peace and love, everyone. It's your man, your mellow Manny Faces. One time for you for checking in. If you're watching on the replay, peace and love. We're live every Monday night, almost every Monday night. More on that later. 9 p.m. Eastern. The world's most informative or enlightening, the world's most enlightening hip hop live stream. Also, its companion is the podcast. So we take the audio from the interviews, we throw it on the podcast, and then we have a great newsletter as well. It's called Hip Hop Can Save America, and it's a very lofty concept, and it means, well, we think that hip hop has some unique and powerful ways that you can connect with and then apply to different things happening out in the world and make the world a better place. It's not a bad idea. It's a great idea if it works, but we talk about all the ways that it works. So that's not just theoretical. My name's Manny Faces. I see people trickling in. I appreciate coming into the live stream. Of course, you can always catch it on a replay if you miss it, but I appreciate the live stream. We appreciate the comments. Give some people. We are only on YouTube today. Only on YouTube. I know. I told y'all got to come over from the other platforms. We're not going to be on Facebook and all those places anymore. So we're just going to be here on YouTube. And that's what's up. So we have a great guest tonight. We're going to have a great talk about, you're going to hear me. Hang on a second. We have a great talk about technology. The, I don't know, what do you call it? The intersection of hip hop and technology. Again, same idea, same kind of thing. Ways that hip hop can help improve society. And that includes on the technology front when it comes to the industries that we hear about all the time, big tech, social media, all of these platforms, not just by being consumers, but by being innovators and folks that are actually doing the work. And I talk to a lot of people who know tech and they know hip hop and they know those two things, but they don't know them together. And so it's something that I speak about often. I've had other guests on here to talk about it. I've given keynote talks and presentations, and I work with some people on consultations on this combination, hip hop and technology. And it's an exciting field. I love that intersection. We love all the intersections of hip hop, obviously, here that can help benefit humanity. Hip hop and education, we talk about all the time here. Hip hop and science and technology, but hip hop and health and wellness. There's ways that hip hop can influence mental health therapy and can, and we just had an occupational therapist on. Shout out to Dr. Gian Jones. There's no, to me, aspect of society that can't be improved somehow by authentic connection, key word, to hip hop music and culture. And again, a lot of times that just means getting folks from communities that might not be familiar with or have had as much resources or access to these fields and disciplines, giving them access and inviting them in because they're brilliant. And their brilliance has been shown over the past 50 years. So listen, I think we should get started. This is my kind of preamble, just so the new people might be tuning in for the first time. I appreciate y'all for checking me out. We're here live every Monday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Sometimes we have co-hosts, guest co-hosts, and oftentimes we have guests. And tonight, once again, our esteemed guest is Darrell Booker, and he's from Microsoft. He works at Microsoft. He is a big dog, in my humble opinion, at Microsoft. And he works as a corporate affairs specialist. He works as a racial equity tech lead, and he works as head of a nonprofit accelerator that's focused on bringing technology solutions to particularly, he used this word, underestimated communities. Like we talk about like underfunded, under-resourced, I say underloved sometimes, communities. So the marginalized communities need technology access. And we talk about it tonight with Darrell Booker, who is leading the charge in many, many ways, including a partnership with the Hip Hop Museum. So obviously it ties into this very nicely, but also work with the Ludacris Foundation and other combinations of hip hop and technology. We'll talk about it with Darrell Booker in just a few minutes. First and foremost, let's get the opening thing opening. Let's get this going. It goes a little something like this. Hit it.
Manny Faces.
You sick for this one.
The thing about hip hop today is
It's smart. It's insightful. The way that they can communicate a complex message in a very short space is remarkable. And a lot of these kids, they're not going to be reading the New York Times. That's not how they're getting their information.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Hip hop culture is more than music.
Peace to you and speak the truth. Show 'em what peace can do when there reach for you.
My hip hop will rock and shock the nation. Rap is something you do. Hip hop is something you live.
So hip hop didn't invent anything, but hip hop reinvented everything.
This is Baby Girl Faces, and this episode is brought to you by
Thank you to my patrons, the Patreons, the supporters of the show. I keep saying it. I know I keep saying I'm going to update and add all the new names. There are new names, and shouts to Baby Girl Faces. One time for Baby Girl Faces. I keep saying I'm going to add more names because there's so many more names. Kath isn't on there. Morgan's not on there. Patrick isn't on there. Chris J isn't on there. Adam K isn't on there. Elliot Gann isn't on there. Like, there's so many people that have been adding to the, just showing support and helping me keep the lights on. If y'all don't do that, the show looks like this. It's just, the lights won't be, you see what I did there? Dad joke. But, so we help, they help. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart. It helps me keep doing this thing and not have to sell out to the corporations some of the corporations are cool. We're going to talk to one tonight that I think doing a pretty good job. So not every corporation is the devil. That being said, tonight, like I said, if you're just tuning in, peace. We're here every Monday night, 9 p.m. live. Hip Hop Can Save America with me, Manny Faces. You can find more about the show at hiphopcansaveamerica.com. We've been doing this for quite some time. We've been doing video since the beginning of the year, but we're doing audio versions for the past few years. Every interview gets ripped and sent to the audio feed. So if, you don't catch the whole thing on a video or you're traveling and moving about the cabin, you want to listen instead, we have that option for you. And of course, we'll also have a standalone video of all the interviews you see on the show. That's the housekeeping. Patreon.com/Manny Faces if you want to support this movement. And if you don't know yet, because you're here for the first time and you're saying, oh, it looks pretty good, Manny, I don't know you, bro, but this is right now, it's giving like good vibes. Wait till the end. And then if you feel so inclined, Patreon.com/Manny Faces so we can do it more. First off, we'll start off with something that I like to call, before we get into the guests and the interview. This is a segment that I like to call Hip Hop News That Isn't About Dumb Shit. Yes, indeed. I'll get this right one of these days. Yes, indeed. We have a thing. I have a thing, but we have a thing called Hip Hop Can Save America, the newsletter. So it's a companion to this show. If you like some of the topics we talk about here, or if you're basically, again, if you're first time, the idea is that hip hop has unique abilities that, when authentically connected to the rest of the world, can help solve problems, alleviate, eliminate sometimes some of the disparities in the world. It can help improve society and uplift humanity. Yes, it can save the world, but we'll start with America. So vibe with me. The newsletter companion to the show is available for free. And I'm just going to give you a couple of news items that I'll be including in an episode edition that I'll be dropping probably tomorrow at some point. I'll be traveling, so you know what I mean? I'll have some time. Hey, Boogie. Oh, you going to bed? All right, Baby Girl Faces one time. Come on. I got to do it. The world famous Baby Girl Faces. All right. Say peace and love.
Peace and Love.
Yeah, that's right. All right, baby. You going to bed? All right. I'll come check you in at the end of the show. All right, she made an appearance, y'all. She's going to charge me $16,000 just for that appearance. But, it is what it is. That's what I'm saying. You're going to want that kind of money. Anyway, comment in the section. Say hi, Baby Girl Faces. So we have this newsletter. I'm bringing it to your attention because it's free and it's hand curated and it's beautiful, and it curates a bunch of stories about hip hop being used in innovative, inventive, and inspiring ways that can help improve society. You don't see a lot of these stories on mainstream media. You don't see a lot of these stories on hip hop media. No offense. They mainly cover the entertainment aspect of the world. But if you're here watching the show and you're curious about hip hop and technology, then you're probably going to be curious about the things that pop up in this newsletter. So I'll give you a couple that we're going to put in there. There'll be more, but just to whet your appetite so that you know kind of what's coming up. I thought this is cool. I mean, if you're here, maybe an underground hip hop fan, maybe you like the late great MF Doom, all caps when you say his name, and then Marvel, of course, the Doctor Doom, where he gets it from. I love that they're not trying to like sue his estate for copyright or whatever. They're actually incorporating a couple of lyrics in the first Doom comic since the passing of MF Doom. So I know that folks like Mike Dando are, I think, head over heels over something like this, as you can see in the picture. It's not loading. Should be loading. Oh, it's so slow. Why is the internet slow when I'm doing a show? That's not cool. So here we have the cover of the Doom. It's apparently a one-on-one. Sometimes there will be like a comic book that doesn't do a whole series. They just do like a one-off. And apparently that's what this is. And there in the beginning, living on borrowed time, the clock ticks faster. And that is a direct quote from MF Doom. I thought that was super dope. I love to see hip hop getting its props out there in the world. And especially with like kind of that intersection. This is kind of all we talk about here is beautiful intersections of hip hop and other areas of the world. So we're going to put that in the newsletter, let people know about that. Another intersection, interestingly enough, Nas, who has done a lot of work. Obviously, if you paid attention during Hip Hop 50, Nas and Mass Appeal put together a ton of, what do you call it? Content, movies, documentaries, of course, the concerts and such. So Nas, I don't know if this is a part of Mass Appeal, but Nas himself is moderating a conversation with Robert De Niro and Martin Scorsese at the 2024 De Niro Con. This is going to be, I think, if I read this right, it's sort of a precursor to the Tribeca Film Festival in New York. And then there's going to be this conversation with Nas at the head of it. And I love to see the moves that Nas is making outside of the music world. Obviously, he's still putting out banging albums and showing that hip hop you could be 50 years old in hip hop, not hip hop being 50 years old, but you could be 50 years in hip hop and still create, quality content and beautiful music and et cetera, et cetera. So I thought that was interesting. You see Nas really getting into a lot of the spaces outside of entertainment. I've talked about him I've written about his endeavors in the venture capital space. I remember a few years ago there was controversy because Lonzo Ball was talking about Nas not being relevant anymore, and everyone kind of jumped down his throat like Nas will always be relevant. He's the guy, he's the top MC. He'll always be relevant. And I was like, look, like to be honest, to a younger kid who's not, Nas isn't relevant. Let's be real about it. I said, but what we should be noting about Nas is not his relevance in music, because that's subjective and relative, but that he's able to parlay his career into venture capital and made millions off of launches and early stage investments. Someone like Lonzo Ball, like a young ball player, like a young basketball player, should be learning that lesson. So everyone was arguing about, you should be listening to Nas music, and we always talk about young people not respecting the elders in hip hop. And I'm like, yes, sure, and maybe what we should be doing more of is talking about how our OG artists have done great jobs of transferring into other industries past rap or past their prime as a commercially successful artist. Anyway, I digress. Nas is doing great things, and we wanted to big that up. So that will be in the newsletter. Again, mannyfaces.substack.com. If you think that that's a cool thing you want to subscribe to, it's a Substack newsletter. It's free. And it gives you all these stories. I give them every 2-3 weeks, maybe, give or take. I'm in Atlanta these days. I did the thing that New Yorkers do, but New York is still, my home. Shouts to the New York Knicks, by the way. Fantastic run this season. Fantastic run. Nothing to be ashamed at. Just brilliant effort. Taking it to 7 games in the second round of the playoffs next year with healthy crew, and we keep this team together. Whew, y'all are all done for. I don't care what y'all say. I'll put money on it at the beginning of the season. So come see me. But anyway, I'm in Atlanta nowadays. I like that Red Bull. We like to obviously shine light on the other elements of hip hop. Very important. Let me put this back up here so you get a reminder who we're talking to today. Darrell Booker will be here in a minute. Microsoft. We're talking hip hop and technology tonight. But dance is, of course, a big aspect of hip hop. It's a big element. It is not done. It is not forgotten, and we highlight it here. And you'll look at an Atlanta focused article on Red Bull's website, meeting Atlanta's top 5 freshest hip hop dancers driving the southern scene. And it was very nice to get a little bit of taste of who's rocking out here. In the place that I now stay, because for years I covered New York hip hop, I got to know all the people doing cool stuff in New York. So now I want to know who's doing cool stuff in Atlanta. And there's a lot of cool stuff down here in Atlanta. So shouts to Atlanta. The South still has something to say. Here's a 1-2 punch. There is a exhibition happening in New York City. Again, I know I'm Atlanta and New York centric. I covered New York for 15 years, hip hop scene, and now I'm in Atlanta, so I get it. So maybe your neck of the woods should be represented better here. Please send me really cool stuff if you like. If you subscribe to the newsletter, you can just respond and be like, "Yo, something's happening out here in Grand Rapids, Michigan." Shouts to Monk. Something's happening out here in Boise, Idaho. Let's go. Let me know what's happening. We'll spread that love. There is a exhibition happening in New York City that is a celebration of hip hop jewelry. Okay, that makes sense. You might see that happening somewhere. It's at the National Museum of American History, the world famous Museum of Natural History in New York City. It's an interesting combination, one that I'm not too surprised at, because we know hip hop can be combined with anything. But we're going to show a quick clip from a news coverage of this great event in New York City. I hope it's on in June. I'll be in New York City in June for the Hip Hop Ed conference. I hope they still have it. This is what it looks like, y'all. Check it out.
This is one of my nearest and dearest pieces of jewelry that I own. And even though I have quite a few pieces, I say humbly, this one means the most to me.
Legendary rapper Roxanne Shante from Queens is talking about this ring, a Juice Crew ring given to Shante, one of a select few who received it.
People would look for people with a juice ring, and you knew that that was a person you can trust, and it was a person that was loyal. So that's the reason why I placed my ring here, because I wanted to represent that side of hip hop.
Which is celebrated through custom-made jewelry belonging to its biggest stars in an exhibition called Ice Cold in the Allison and Roberto Mignone Halls of Gems and Minerals at the American Museum of Natural History. Rocks, gems, jewelry. No brainer, right?
When you see it in context, hip-hop jewelry in the context of, the world history of gems and minerals, it makes all the sense.
For me, that's one of the magical things about the museum, ways in which each object in the museum can be a pathway to a much bigger cultural conversation.
In this case, the evolution and success of hip-hop from its early days in the 1970s. Here's a piece from DJ Kool Herc, credited with starting it all in the Bronx, plus a necklace from the Notorious B.I.G., eagle bracelet from Ghostface Killah, Barbie pendant from Nicki Minaj, grill set from Bad Bunny, and this A$AP Rocky Lego pendant.
I mean, there's been cycles within hip hop, within the style of, jewelry and adornment, and this kind of captures the progression of it all.
It's bright, it's brilliant, and tells the stories of 50 years of hip hop. Ice Cold will be on display through January 5th of 2025. In Manhattan, Roger Clark, New York One.
Fantastic. So check that out. New York City, all the way till next year. So I'll be able to check it out when I'm there in June. You should be able to check it out if you're in New York City or traveling to New York City. If you haven't gone to New York City, you should it's a bucket list item. You should just go. Not for this, but I mean, while you're there, go for it. There's a lot of hip hop stuff you can do in New York City. A lot of hip hop stuff you can do. You can take the Hush hip hop tours. You can check out the museum, the Hip Hop Museum, formerly named the Universal Hip Hop Museum, but now the Hip Hop Museum. We're going to talk to Darrell Booker in a minute about Microsoft's involvement with the Hip Hop Museum. And now you got the Hip Hop Museum, you got jewelry in the National History Museum. Now you got an actual museum. I like to see hip hop infiltrate, smack, flip, rub down, remix, and remake these spaces, these institutions. That's what we talk about all the time on the show. That's what I talk about all the time in my work. We don't need validation. Hip hoppers, sometimes, communities of color, they don't want, y'all don't want that validation. Don't want to beg for it. Don't need it. Don't want it. F a Grammy, all the discussions we have. However, if done right, I do think that the power and reach and resources, to be fair, of legacy institutions are important to connect with the communities through the beauty and brilliance, as they said, not of hip hop jewelry, but of hip hop culture as a whole. I wrote a piece about it. Maybe I'll put it in the newsletter to remind folks. When I attached this story to the newsletter, I wrote a piece imploring museums and libraries and other legacy institutions to include more hip hop programming. I like that they're doing it now. They certainly did it last year. I want to see if they're going to keep that up because, you know, Hip Hop 50 was nice. What are you doing for Hip Hop 51? But we also note that I wrote that article in 2017. So I've been calling for it for a while. I'm glad it's finally happening, and we will report on it. Shouts to some folks in that video, including Vicky Toback, who wrote a book that has the whole, you know, rundown on hip hop jewelry. Pete Nice, you remember him from Third Base, who's a curator at the Hip Hop Museum, along with Paradise Gray, who's a friend of the show. Shouts to Summer McCoy, who's involved with all of this stuff and also a forever consulting producer on this show. Anyway, some shout outs to the people that are in the mix. That being said, reminder. Oh, and real quick, there's also a article in the New Yorker. I love to see hip hop in these spaces when it's done right. Slick Rick Museum Consultant, and it talks about Ice Cold, the American Museum of Natural History's hip hop jewelry show. Says it outdazzled the Met Gala. So I like gala. Is it gala or gala? I never know. I haven't been to too many galas, laws. I don't know. So someone got to tell me or invite me to more of them so I know how to pronounce it. But it's probably okay either way. Anyway, I digress. Check it out, Slick Rick in the New Yorker, which is nice because it'll be 438,000 words about Slick Rick, which is nice. Two more quickies, and then we'll get to our wonderful guest, Darrell Booker, the corporate affairs specialist and head of the nonprofit tech accelerator at Microsoft, doing some amazing things, including with the Hip Hop Museum. Just moments away. Bear with me. This stuff needs to be said because no one else is telling you these things. So you like hip hop, there's no one else but me. Anyway, telling you this sort of thing. This is important. My friends in New Brunswick, New Jersey. Shouts to New Brunswick, New Jersey. They had a New Brunswick is a music city, but it's nestled between New York and Philadelphia. It's a college town. Shouts to Rutgers University, my daddy's alma mater. Shouts to New Brunswick, my mama's hometown. So of course I'm going to be a little biased here, but friend of the show, Silent Night. We have a great connection. I have a great connection with New Brunswick, and they've been showing love to hip hop. They did their own Hip Hop 50 celebration last year in New Brunswick, and I love the smaller towns. It's not the smallest town, but like I said, it's not always New York, Atlanta. It's those local hip hop scenes that are beautiful and lovely and need, you know, signal boosting. This coming August, a hip hop 50 continuation, an Olympics watch party for breaking or break dancing. You know what I mean? And they're going to have a vibrant atmosphere of hip hop music, dance, and competitive tournaments. They're raising some money for this. What I love about this is they want to hire performers. They want to pay people and not just be like, yo, come through on the strength. No, we want to pay people to put this together. So I will put this link in the chat. It's a worthy Kickstarter campaign. You know, sometimes, you know, I ask y'all to contribute to, you know, my thing. That'd be nice too, but let me do it at the same time so you feel conflicted. You can do both, right? Hit us on the Patreon, $5 a month. Hit Hip Hop 55, $10, get their thing going. I'm hoping if they raise enough money, maybe they bring me up and I come and hang out for the whole thing. But do support events like this, especially in your neighborhood, especially in your locale. It really does take us all to like not rely on the big corporations to get involved and sponsor and do all the things, especially smaller, but no less important, local celebrations. So shout out to my friends at Hip Hop 50 New Brunswick. Check them out. And then finally, almost finally, two things I want you to know about. I'll put this all in the newsletter. So again, please, if anything I just said sounds like, oh, that's cool, sign up to the newsletter. It's mannyfaces.substack.com. Jump off right quick, come back. You know, don't forget, just do it because it's free. It comes out every couple of weeks and it's filled with stuff like this. Chock full of stuff. I don't understand that saying either. Chock full. Why is it chock full? Chalk. What's a chalk? Was it chalk something that was full of? I don't know what a chalk is. We say it's chock full of something. I don't know. Anyway, Drop in Science is happening in Ireland. Now, this is interesting because, again, this is Hip Hop Can Save America. I don't really do the Hip Hop Can Save the World thing yet. But if you subscribe to all the things, we're going to get there. We'll get there. But this is a cool conference. There's going to be some live stream keynotes and some live stream sessions. It's happening overseas, but it has some American, of course, folks presenting, and it's an academic conference. What I love about it is because it is European focused, so you're going to get some worldwide content, and I'll be presenting there. Oh, what? Me? Who? Me? Oh, one time for me. So I'll be there. We'll be presenting a very good presentation. It won't be live streamed. You have to, get that later. But there's going to be some great keynote folks presenting. So I just wanted to shout them out. The Drop in Science conference is happening in Ireland, the Emerald Isle. Again, I have some ancestral love there. So yeah, shouts to them. So I'm going to post that there. Just maybe, register online. It's a free registration. Just register. You'll get the links and maybe watch some of the sessions that happen from there. And it's a good thing. Also, like I said, I don't have a link for it, but the Hip Hop Ed conference is coming up. And what I do very often put in the newsletter that you see the link for there, mannyfaces.substack.com. I put in links to a bunch of these kinds of gatherings, mostly sort of academic conferences. But what I love about hip hop academic conferences is that they're never just academic nerdy kind of, we're going to talk about the anthropology of the origins of the diasporic, it's not, sometimes it is that, but it's not always that. It's not always that. So if you want to find out more about, and I love when it's artists or fans or just regular hip hop heads come to these things, because first of all, they get blown away. They're like, oh my God, this is great. People are studying my culture and I love it. But also artists get to be like, yo, how can I be involved? I notice you have performances, and it's just a beautiful blending of things. So all that can be found on the newsletter. Once again, let's get in, let's keep it moving. I do want to give some shout outs again to our many patrons. So thank you to the patrons tuning in and turning up with us. Also, some folks in the chat. What up to Flo Story? Of course, that's our good friend, Dr. Raphael Travis. And we've had him on the show talking about the healing power of hip hop, which is a book, which is also a philosophy. And he's used his connection to hip hop to instruct the world of mental health and counseling and just empowerment through hip hop. And we love him, and he's a great supporter, and we appreciate him. I'm gonna Canada, like Canada, but Canada, Canada. That's right. What up? So you just linking up with us today for the first time. So shouts to you for checking in and rocking with us. Used to live in Sayreville. I used to live in Newark. So you know what? New Jersey. That's what's up. Dirty Jers in the house. I appreciate it. Easy with the academic slander. No, man, I'm just saying, like facts, it is what it is. Like sometimes it bees like that. And sometimes it's much more, not like that. So, we take it all. All right. Canada. All right. Canada. I like it. I appreciate you. I saw that you just checked in with us for the first time, today, I think. And so salute to you and thank you for tuning in and turning up with us. And I think you messaged and we'll get back to you. But yeah, man, yell anytime. I appreciate you. All right, look. So anyway, that was what I like to call hip hop news that isn't about dumb shit. I'm so proud of that. I made all this stuff, by the way. All the things you see, I did. So yay me. Thank you, children. All right, so that was that. My list says Ice Cold, which we talked about and showed the video. News, which I did. Ireland, which I talked about. The New York Knicks, shouts, to their season. And let's get into it. Again, I promised tonight was going to be a good one. It definitely is. Hip hop and technology. One of my favorite intersections. Again, my whole thing, my whole vibe, why I do this work is that I just fell in love I've been a hip hop guy forever, as I'm sure you could tell or whatever might know. But when I started covering hip hop in New York City, like as my thing, I found great independent like people say, New York hip hop is dead. It's all Atlanta now and Houston, da da da. And shouts to Houston, by the way, just got pummeled by weather, and shouts to all my people in Houston. Um, but I went around New York, and I'm like, I'm still here. We're still here. There's a great independent scene, and like pillars of hip hop culture, all the elements, just beauty and love in hip hop community was in New York, and I started reporting on it. But I started finding people who were doing things, this innovative connections, teaching artists that would be at Freestyle Mondays, but then also going into the juvenile detention centers or high schools or other things to like teach songwriting like workshops and self empowerment and all this wonderful stuff. And then we started finding out about the hip hop ed guys, the Science Genius program that was going into schools. That oh man, it was so much good stuff. And I'm like, wow, hip hop is really like doing more than we hear about. Like, there's great independent music and it makes us feel good. And there's live bands and there's freestyles is still a thing. And there's dance and all these things are happening. Graph writing is still alive. But when I started realizing that people were doing things in this unique combination that was helping improve society, helping lift like children grades up and helping teach financial literacy or civic engagement, where our schools, especially in underserved and under-resourced and underloved and underestimated communities, I realized that hip hop's power is really, really, really underrepresented itself. And so I started taking on that. One of the worlds that I found this was hip hop and technology. And I started talking to people like, I started talking to a bunch of people. They've been on the show. We'll talk to some more. But I started finding people who are working in this field. I even developed a keynote talk. I actually do a whole keynote. I presented at tech conferences and I presented at Microsoft, one of their employee resource group conferences, about the power of hip hop, the legacy of ingenuity within hip hop and technology like that. And then, because it always boggled my mind, like, why aren't we hiring people that are hip hop minded? We know, I got the book right up there, The Hip Hop Mindset. Like, there's people with DJs are like gifted, like organic engineers. Like, we see the world differently. We know how to problem solve differently. We know how to hack by nature. And technology and hip hop was always one of my favorite intersections. So when I started doing this work, it's the one, like I said, I do keynotes, I talk about it. And it's one of the, sort of my favorite intersections. So that being said, I was extremely happy to get the attention of Darrell Booker, who is the corporate affairs specialist at Microsoft. I'll explain what that means. Well, he'll explain what that really means in a second. He's also the racial equity tech lead. All right. So there's, these groups and these folks who are trying to say, okay, we're doing tech work, but we also want to increase racial equity in the field. It's one of the reasons why I give the talk, because the tech industry has been famously a little bit underrepresented by, multiculturalism. So his work focuses on that. He works with community organizations to provide the technology and the resources, sometimes the money that they need to do the kind of work on the ground that helps improve racial disparity, economic disparity across the board. Works a lot with nonprofits, including the Hip Hop Museum. They developed a software program that is now going to be on display at the Hip Hop Museum when it opens, and it's really actually been piloted and it's working now in New York City. So I love it. I love that kind of talk. I've been talking to people like this for years. When I saw Darrell doing it, I said, man, you're the one that was like kind of helping orchestrate this whole thing. Let's talk. And then when we talked. This is not a live interview. Hint, hint, wink, wink. When we talked, I realized that this is exactly what we're here to promote and signal boost and amplify. So without further ado, please join me for my conversation with Darrell Booker from Microsoft, my man, my mellow. Let's go. Well, thank you for your time this morning. People might be watching this time at night, but right now it's morning. So thank you for your time. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me, man. Appreciate it.
Indeed. Now, I guess if you don't mind, let's kind of start by I could read your bio, I could tell people, what I found out about you, but if you would maybe present yourself to our folk the way you like to be presented to the world, if you would.
Okay. A couple ways. I call myself the techie's favorite techie. Um, yeah, kind of identify myself at the intersection of three things, technology, social impact, and all things culture. So, long story short, at an early age, 14, got into tech, hardcore coder, etc. Climbed all the appropriate ranks in technology. Um, kind of fighting some of the odds of, being the only one that looked like me and young and all those things. But as I kind of developed, just kind of stayed true to myself, and found kind of a different purpose for me, and that was how can I use all my technology to help others, from a philanthropic standpoint. There's a lot of great people out here doing great work, whether it's nonprofits, universities, individual people, and technology plays a role in everything nowadays. It really makes a difference. So how can we bring technologies to support those things? And then last but not least, just, being able to connect with my community I came up with, still being able to resonate with young people, and just kind of bringing all sides of me together and just be the best that I can be.
Got you. Where first of all, where did you grow up? Where are you from originally?
I grew up on the East Coast, Richmond, Virginia,
Okay.
which is it's not a small city. It's not a big city. We went through a lot of identity crises in terms of are we North? You know what I mean? And I kind of grew up on all things New York rap, and then as South boom, it's like okay, we're part of the South as well. So pretty cool, middle of the road place to live in Virginia, but now currently in Atlanta.
Okay. All right. I did the thing that New Yorkers do, and I moved to Atlanta as well. So I'm right down. We're probably right down the block from each other. And also have to give you some props. I usually win the backdrop game, but you got a little something there, and I appreciate that.
A little something. I'm upset. I ain't had time to put some more of my hip hop memorabilia up there. So
okay.
You got me on that one.
It's all right. It's all right. We can do a round two, and we'll battle it out. It'll be a whole thing. So of course at Microsoft, the reason why obviously you really came to my attention, although obviously you're doing quite a bit more work that we will want to talk about, get into. The Flow Scholar project with the Hip Hop Museum, formerly known the Universal Hip Hop Museum, just for those who might not recognize, they did change their name. They're good folks. We know a lot of them. We've talked to a lot of them and worked with some of them as well. The Flow Scholar program kind of came through your the work you do connecting with cultural community organizations. So can you give a little, just give a little description what this Flow Scholar project is about, what it does, and then how it came to life?
Yeah, so I kind of go the other way. So what people may not realize is the Hip Hop Museum is a nonprofit. Most museums, just about all of them are. So the work that I found and lead at Microsoft, dating back to the 2020, just days after the killing of George Floyd, is part of our racial equity commitments of how we can use the power of data and technology to address racial injustices. Or it's another way I like to say it, bringing all things tech innovation, skilling, career awareness, and workforce development, frankly, to Black and Brown marginalized communities all over the country. And I created a program to where, contrary to what people believe, they see Microsoft, world's largest tech company, you see headlines of however many billions Xbox paid to buy Activision Blizzard. And, people just assume that we can touch every Manny in the world and make your life better. And that's not feasible. But instead, what I do believe in what we created was a way that we can support every one of those entities that is working with every man, if that makes sense. And that's those nonprofits, those community-based organizations, those HBCUs, and how in a one-to-many fashion we can work with them and then through them. So with them is bringing all the latest and greatest technology to support their mission. If it's a nonprofit focused on, food insecurities in the neighborhood or homelessness or, whatever education, how can we make sure that they have the technology they need for the highest impact on their mission? And when you look at least in the Black community, Black-led nonprofits receive unrestricted grants at a 76% smaller rate than their counterparts, which means they don't get the money to just invest in things like technology or people. So, bridging that gap for them, giving them the free licenses to software to run their nonprofit at the highest level, we know that will have an impact on their mission. But then what that also gains for us, man, is, partners at a hyper local level from whatever borough in New York to the west side of Atlanta. We now have these partners that now through them, we can get all of our, workforce development and career awareness into every Manny and every little Manny there is. So for me, when tapped to do this, I understood two things. One is, a lot of times we look at STEM, but, I like more STEAM, and that A is for arts and culture. And, all things arts and culture are valuable career pathways. It's no way that we can tell a young person now that they can't be great by singing, dancing, acting, whatever, because they open their phones and they see people do it. So instead, let's give them the tools to be great with it. You follow me? And then also too, with me, I know as someone who's very representative, what the hip hop culture is a part of me. It's part of my DNA. You follow I'm getting at? When I'm feeling a certain type of way, I'm cutting on a certain artist. You know what I mean? From hype, that's a certain artist. If I'm feeling down, that's a certain artist. If I want to be inspired, that's a certain artist. It is critical to us. So we can't shy away from something that's so important within our Black and Brown community, and we need to actually foster that. So, Microsoft made a commitment to support that hip hop museum, providing some funding to the actual physical museum, which is going to be opening next year, which we're all excited for. But with all things AI right now, this was an excellent opportunity for us to show people the power of what we call generative AI and how, we can help to create a tool with the Hip Hop Museum that's, someone can think of it as a fun tool, but we call it an educational tool where you can put in certain prompts, which is teaching you the concept around prompt engineering, but you're putting in certain prompts. You're answering certain questions of who you are, what inspires you, what is your rap style, what are the beats you like, etc. And then for it to be able to spit out a few bars for you that can then, for even actual artists, maybe get them out of that brief writing block moment. You know what I mean, man?
Right.
So this is something that we see as something that can really support, whether it's current artists that need a little push at the moment. I mean, everybody uses ghostwriters, so why a computer can't be a ghostwriter for you? But then also thinking about some of those young people. And the last thing that I'll kind of say is I think it really makes things equitable in terms of there's probably been a lot of, let's say, a great singer, beautiful voice, you know what I mean? But someone told him or her, okay, but your content sucks. Your voice is great, but what are you talking about? And when you think about what someone has to do is they need to, pay a ghostwriter. They need to find someone to be able to say, hey, can you write these lyrics for me? Where now someone can sit right at home and kind of remove that barrier. So that's how Flow Scholar started, and that's what it is. And we're just really proud of the possibilities for it.
Yeah, I think it's, there's a lot of confusion or apprehension around AI in general, especially with the arts. And with songs being released and we don't know if it's actually a person or not, but this is something that is aimed towards, two things. Number one, like you say, kind of just creative spark, not creative replacement. That's fine. Writers do that all the time. I'm tackling a concept. I just need a quick outline to get my thoughts, and then I just rock out, and I'm not really using the thing to write the thing.
Yep.
That's not what's happening here. And of course you say, and you slipped it in, but I think it's actually an incredibly vital part, the prompt engineering part. It's funny, you may know this. I actually do a keynote talk presentation called Hip Hop Can Hack Everything. And I actually did present to Microsoft at one of your employee resource groups, one of your somewhere in some vast corner of your company at one time. And one of the points that I always make when I'm doing any kind of talk or advocating for hip hop as a tool to help, improve society is that hip hop always gives you life skills that are transferable to something else.
Absolutely.
Everyone who wanted to be a rapper, myself included, maybe you, we tried to write rhymes, we tried to do our things, we wanted to be an artist, and maybe we didn't make it to that commercial creative, success level, but we're better public speakers.
Absolutely.
Because we spent some time spitting in front of people. We're better, processors of information because we took stuff in and now we know how to, spit it back out in a different format. And that's what this is doing on the technological tip. It's giving somebody who may never have thought of prompt engineering, which is a huge thing to know about these days, at young in communities where, like, we know the resources to technology aren't always available, in a fun way that's going to be able to like do something cool with them, and that will give them this spark of innovation that they may not have otherwise had access to. This is right.
Absolutely. I'll never forget. I think it was back in August when we unveiled the Flow Scholar tool at our office in New York. We had hip hop legend Ice-T come and introduce it to about a group of 20 New York kids, and I got to kick off with a presentation. And I kicked it off, and my first slide was, "What is prompt engineering?" Right? And then my second slide was about 4 news articles, Forbes, and I can't remember the other ones. And then the headline was, "The job that's paying $300,000 a year with no degree." Right. And you should have seen me. Not only just the kids, the adults in the room. I was like, "What? Prompt engineering? What is? How do I do that?" Right. So you're 1000% correct. It's really, teaching a lot of those, foundation and even intermediate skills in prompt engineering in a culturally engaging way. That is one of the things that I'm really big on is when we think of the education system as a whole, K through 12, colleges, whatever, for whatever reason, someone created, this is the way you teach kids, and you have to teach all kids should learn this way. And that's not the case, especially if you're not taking into consideration their environment and where they're coming from and things of that sort. So we have to move things in a different way. So absolutely, the other thing I want to just hit on what you talked about, you're absolutely right. Now with Flow Scholar, we tell people like, this is just, a start. Now take these bars, change them up, make it to what you own. This is not the end all be all. And when we think of Microsoft as a whole, there's a reason our product for all things generative AI that's in the Microsoft suite or that's in Bing and the website, it's called Copilot. Why? What does a Copilot do? Your Copilot is assisting you. In all these things all things generative AI are not meant to replace. They're meant to guide you and be able to assist you, but you still need to come and put your oomph on it every single time.
Yeah. And we'll come back. I want to talk to another aspect of what AI can do to help, again, either communities or organizations that don't have resources, because obviously there's things it can do to help crunch data or bring together, different, processes that you can automate so that you save yourself time. I do it. I'm a very not many man show here. And of course, there's a lot of things I had to do. You got a calendaring system that, we talked to, your folks about, so there's all kind of things happening. This thing was automated. We sent the link, it's one less thing we have to do. But before I kind of lose my train of thought, you're in a very specific place where you're at a big tech company. Your focus is, to equity and inclusivity and all that. And AI has been known in some other places, in some other situations, to not be friendly, let's just say, to Black and brown communities specifically, in terms of how facial recognition software is put together, how some of these AI, generative tools can't draw, Black folk, like, like there's been some problems. And that's in part because of, I think, society's greater issue with having, diversity built into the core of everything they do. That's not the case. So these tools fail in that regard. How important it is internally, not just connecting with the outside world at Microsoft. How important is it to the company and to your work in particular to make sure that stuff isn't prevalent in at least your work, but in the tech sector as a whole?
No, absolutely. And even though the majority of the world got on the AI train year and a half ago, this is something that we within Microsoft have been working on and part of for years, and we've been forward thinking around some of those things. So we have within Microsoft something called responsible AI. And I used to be one of the responsible AI champs within philanthropies. And essentially, the way that works is if there are certain projects that we as Microsoft internally or one of our partners are wanting to leverage our technology to deploy, and there is even the smallest hint that there could be some biases, it has to go through a very rigorous review process. And there's plenty of examples where we have denied said project and said, no, we won't do this. We won't allow you to use our technology because we know those biases exist. So that is a responsible AI framework that we've had in place for many years. But you're exactly right, which is why we are on the forefront of solving that. And the way we solve for that is we gotta get more people skilled in AI. So who's on the other end creating these solutions? They start to look much more diverse. They're more inclusive. They start to put in these models, to your point, not just a bunch of pictures of middle-aged white men, but this is someone who's now saying, okay, I need to have someone who has dreads in here. I need to have someone who has this, and there's various religions, and there's different headgear and things that people wear. So we need to include all of these things in our models to train them. So that is why it's uber important for us to just teach as many people how to be in this field. And that is one of the things that we as philanthropies are taking the charge with and leading, how making sure that not only our nonprofits are using AI, but then also kind of like I said, through our schools and universities, we're providing as much training as possible. So as soon as we're creating the latest and greatest in generative AI, we're trying to pass down those training to people in the community.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen some of your work out in the field. If just give a couple of maybe real world examples. You say you go to schools, you do a couple of things. What are some of the programs that you lead that are actually on the ground in the in the places doing the things?
Yeah, I mean, we do it somewhat regularly out of our office here in Atlanta. Since it is hip hop, we're really closely with LBRN Records, and we've done a couple of events with them. A lot of times we're focusing on our college age females, and we're bringing them in from Spelman and some of these other schools. And we've done some of these workshops where they leverage prompt engineering, Flow Scholar to be able to create music. We also did the same thing with Dolly, the technology to be able to generate images, and then kind of show them the entire life cycle as it relates to, the possibilities in the future of music, to where, essentially you can pick a beat, AI can help you, write those lyrics, and then AI can help you create your album artwork, and here's a package. But then also wrapping them around all the other industry professionals from, marketing, et cetera, within that record label, to be able to just show them that that's just one piece. Here's our technology can power it. And then here's some things moving forward. So, I mean, whether it's something like that or things that we're doing even at the youngest of ages, through coding, through video game coding, launched a partnership with the Harlem Globetrotters called Code Trotters. We're using something called Microsoft Make Code, which is a free web-based game development tool, perfect for anyone, not only kids, but you can be 50 years old wanting to learn video game coding for the first time. And with that, we're teaching them not only coding techniques, we're teaching them video game techniques, but then also sneaking in, AI concepts. Like I said, even at the earliest age, elementary and middle school, they're starting to understand some of these things.
Yeah, that's dope. Obviously, when you have folks that don't I've seen some of these programs where it's aimed at kids, it's hip hop, or like even video game is great conduit as well, because they just don't think. I didn't think you didn't that you could, that computer programming is even a thing. Like if you don't get exposed to that concept, you don't know how the games are. You just play the game. Like you don't think that you could touch a computer in that way so early in life that becomes your career path. It just,
Yeah,
you don't
yeah,
know.
and you hit the nail on the head. So many don't know, but I think what's more disheartening is these things are out here. It's just like so much things. If we just look within this country and this society, things aren't making it to everyone at the same time. And I'll give you a prime example. I think we all know Minecraft, which is, if I'm not mistaken, it's the #1 stream game. It's a game, all kids know it, but people don't even realize there's Minecraft Education Edition, where through that you can not only, teach all types of concepts through Minecraft, but you can actually teach them those, elements in coding and building. And then you can introduce other concepts, like architecture. You know what I mean? We've done that. We've done challenges, whether it's at the high school level or colleges. Can you reimagine what your college looks like that's more inclusive and more sustainable and things of that sort? And then these kids are learning, they're learning how to build in Minecraft, but they're also learning architecture and sustainability concepts at the same time.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we find that what I champion here, obviously, reason why we're talking, the idea that hip hop is the conduit, maker. Like there, yes, you can get in through video games. Yes, you get it through sports and through sneaker heads and all that stuff. But hip hop has everything, and it connects to everything. And there's nothing. In the talk that I do, tech based, like the history of innovation, technological innovation through hip hop, from the fact of just going back to touching the turntables in a unorthodox way, all the way to how Soulja Boy pimped the peer-to-peer networks, all the way. There's so many innovative stories and anecdotes and histories that you could then show a young person through the music and culture they love to have it click in their head.
I talk about that all the time. I feel like you and I are around the same age. I mean, just how I've innovated from things called DAT tapes to, physical taking things to radio stations and all of this to, the invention of internet, MP3s, how that works. But then, even streaming and how that's evolved, whether it was a Kanye, and I forgot which particular album it was, and it was like, he put it out, but it wasn't finished. And he goes and just updates the song on streaming.
That was brilliant. Yeah. Maybe Life of Pablo, but yeah, I think
Or how about, wasn't there a little rift between Beyonce and Khalees? I think Khalees was on her song, and but Beyonce used some sample from Khalees. Khalees didn't like it, so you know what Beyonce did? She took her off, pushed it right back to the streaming services.
Right.
Or most recently, and I happened to be at Dreamville Fest, standing there when J. Cole says, he makes his apology and says, I forgot, he said, "Hey, let's take that song off the streaming network." So it really has revolutionized, distribution of music, collaboration of music. I mean, technology is just vital to all things. Like, do artists even get together in the studio anymore to make records?
Right.
Right.
Right. We don't even get together to do an interview, and we're right around the corner. Well, maybe we should have. I should have thought about that, but it's all good. But then we wouldn't have had the backdrops. We would need all the cameras. This is okay. That's okay for now. No, I appreciate that, and that's the thing we champion here, because hip hop can be that. You talk about how most people think Minecraft and they see game, and most people think hip hop and they see music, and that's it. Obviously we talk about connections with music in the education system, health and wellness. We have mental health professionals that are connecting to kids through hip hop and using that to benefit lives as well. And on the technology front, there's so much, and that's why it's one of my favorite areas of intersection. So I'm so glad that we're talking. I'll keep you for just a couple more minutes if you could. What can the general public do? What can parents do? What can teachers reach out to Microsoft and say, "Hey, we use Microsoft. We got smart boards and all that stuff. I can get a little curriculum allowance, or I can go out and find some things." Are there ways that people, the general folk, can connect with the work you do to bring it to their kids if it's not being provided some other way?
Absolutely. We focus on the kids. There's a couple things that come to my mind. One is our TEALS program, which is like the color TEALS. And that is our computer science and high school program, where we are going into high school and then an intense focus on, high schools and, some of the underestimated communities and bringing this program there. And we do it in twofold. If said school has a computer science teacher to some degree, we bring in a tech professional and as kind of a teacher's aide and assist that person. We bring curriculum, or if it's the other way around, they don't even have anybody at all. We can come in and be able to bring that program. And I will say, we struggle with getting schools to sign up. And one of the reasons is, sometimes it's really tough to get within the communities and need what we have to offer. So I say all that to say, if anybody is hearing this and you're a parent, you're a teacher, you're a principal, you're some staff member at a school, and you all can leverage a computer science program that we can bring to your school, please, and I wish I had the link, but please just Google or Bing Microsoft Teals. It'll go to the web page, and then you can nominate your school. That's one thing. My work and my team is really, like I said, rooted on the nonprofits. And I just, if you can give me a moment to why that's so important. As I talked about with schools, the inequities in schools, and then even sometimes a lot of red tape to do things in schools. You have the administration level principals, but then you have a school board, and all these other people that oversee. So when you think about bringing programming things into the school, it's not as turnkey as quick as possible. But you know who can pivot on the dime? Those community nonprofits that's around those same schools, that get those same kids after school, that get those same kids during the summertime. And then for the most part, a lot of these schools have those relationships and asking those nonprofits to come into the school. So we can effectively make change with our young people through those nonprofits. So if you're a nonprofit anywhere in this country or actually globe, because my remit has changed, and twofold, you can leverage Microsoft technology resources for operational standpoint, from managing volunteers to fundraising to a learning management platform, all these things that can allow you from an operational standpoint. And or you're a nonprofit that could take benefit of some of the curriculum that we have, that we can set you up, we can train your staff to be the ones teaching these concepts to your youth. And remember, all things Microsoft, AI, coding, cybersecurity, we're linked in. So when we think about career, professional development, resume prep, we can support with that. And then Xbox. Gaming is bigger than the movie industry worldwide. So how can we get more diverse people into that industry? We can teach them coding. We have programs to help people who want to be game publishers. Please reach out. Please go to a website called aka.ms/NTA. That's aka.ms/N as in nonprofit, T as in tech, A as acceleration. Sign up for my free program. Within a day, you'll get an email with next steps and get connected to my team.
That's brilliant. And that connection to the nonprofits is key. Like I said, and we do have a lot of educators also that listen to the show. We talk to a lot of folks. Again, our mandate, as you use the word, connecting hip hop to all these things. So we have a lot of teachers, but the nonprofit is so vital because, there's some places you can't get into the schools and do this kind of culturally responsive, pedagogy or any of these things. They're not going to go for it. But the community centers and the community organizations are sort of the key to getting in front of the community. So it makes sense to me.
Man, can I get one more shout out before we go?
Please do.
Today is May 1st. We're recording this, which is the start of Mental Health Awareness Month. And I'm bringing that up for two reasons. I personally think that hip hop understand, how that can support people with mental health issues. I've said this publicly in a written interview. I said here, as someone who had battled depression and anxiety, one of my favorite artists to this day, rest in peace, is Juice WRLD. And you want to know why? Juice was not afraid to talk about what's going on in his head, the demons, the things of that sort. And for me, that normalized it for me. You follow what I'm getting at? And I felt less isolated and alone. And, hip hop does that to a huge degree for so many people. And we need to understand, and, sometimes all you got is, your phone or your speaker. You may be all alone. And that's the one thing that's going to keep you from driving crazy at that moment. So I just wanted to say that I want to shout out one nonprofit called Silence the Shame. They're doing really big things. Started by amazing woman Shanti Das, a huge legend in the hip hop industry. Please follow, support that organization, and donate by texting the word silence to 707070. Silence the Shame is doing some amazing things to support mental health.
Yes, fantastic shout out. I know of Shanti Das. I've met her a couple of times now that I'm here in the A. All roads lead through certain folk down here. So, you know what I mean? So, and that's great. Future guest on here to talk about it, of course, I hope. And I appreciate that. I joke all the time. It's not a joke, but it's a joke. Of a certain age, hip hop heads will say, we used to rap about selling drugs. Now everyone just rap about taking drugs. And, like, I'm like, the first is like better, but okay, I hear you. The implication being that when young people talk about self-medication or, depression or these kind of, that it's soft somehow. And that's the implication. We're sometimes the older heads are just, a little bit more hard rock. I understand that. Right. But at the same time, that's something that we've always wanted, I think, from our music and our culture, is to be able to address every aspect of what's going on in their lives. And I know that, you talk about Juice WRLD, we talk about this all the time, that these are ways to meet young people and even older people, halfway in ways that just didn't exist before. You couldn't reach certain kids with traditional westernized, methods of connecting mental health therapy. And now we have this wonderful tool. So instead of downplaying the content because you might not like what your kids are listening to, look for the keys and look for the ways in, the conduits. I always say, look, I'm not going to question my kid's taste in music if he's connecting to a song that's talking about self-medicating or feeling a certain type of way. I'm going to take him to a therapist. I don't have to sit there and be like, your music sucks, bro, and then just keep it moving. That's giving me my conduit. That's giving me my spark and how to connect to my children better. And we can do that on a community level.
Also, another way to say it, those are signs. Those are cues. Recognize
that's a cue. That's the word. That's exactly what I was looking for. Yep.
Yep. Exactly.
Yep. 100%. Well, I'm glad we agree on that. I'm glad you brought that up, and we'll continue to. Like I said before, we have folks on this show that do that work exactly in hip hop. Yeah. So thank you for bringing that up and putting that in folks' minds, and they can keep tuned to us, and we'll find some folks who are doing that work to share with them. Do the end of interview things if you could, sir. Let us know like what you got going on, what's coming up. Any initiatives that you think folks should talk about, or should know about rather. And again, just bring it back to the beginning. What do you expect to see in your collaboration with the Hip Hop Museum going forward and the hip hop community at large?
Yeah, lots of things. Some things I can't mention at the moment. So I say stay tuned. Follow me on all social media at Darrell Booker, DARELLBOOKER. Check out some of those things. Just continuing connecting with culture, working a lot with athletes across all sports, female sports, actors, etc., supporting their initiatives. So some of those things will drop soon. And then as it relates to hip hop, I definitely can mention work really closely with another hip hop legend, Ludacris, and his foundation. They're doing some amazing things in Atlanta. We've done several AI workshops and boot camps with him and his team. So we're going to continue pouring into him and his initiatives. And then we're going to marching up towards the opening of the Hip Hop Museum. You should see some cool Microsoft tech in there as well when that opens. And I really need people to understand the significance. This is not a 5,000 square foot little, rinky-dink museum. This is a massive museum in the Bronx. And the significance to hip hop is, now our, legends have to aspire to get to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. This will now shift and people can now get inducted into the Hip Hop Museum. So this is really big for all things hip hop. I'll probably say every respectable person is either on the board or advisory member of this. So 2025 will be a big year for hip hop.
Yes, indeed. As I always said throughout the year last year, Hip Hop 50 is cool, but I'm looking at Hip Hop 51 and what are we
There
doing,
you go.
moving forward? And the Hip Hop Museum is a great job of moving forward to make sure we're properly looking backward and connecting and doing all things for the culture. So we have a lot of friends that are on that committee and all that. So
And then last but not least, I just want to shout out, Microsoft for collaborating with the Hip Hop Museum. I think, someone could easily say, however many years ago, Microsoft and hip hop in the same sentence would never work. But here we are and it's now, and it just really shows how amazing of a corporation we are. So.
Man, listen, I was making music. I was a writer. I was a hip hop head. I was a DJ, a producer, and I used Microsoft Windows my whole life.
There
so
you
look,
go. There you go.
y'all been in it. Y'all been in it. Not everything is the other folk.
Yep.
So I'll be the only DJ with a Surface Pro out there. They're like, well, look at me like this.
Nothing wrong with it.
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. Listen, I really appreciate your time. I appreciate your work and your efforts connecting, doing all the work that you do. Obviously, as you can tell, I'm an advocate for it. I'd love to come out, follow, some of the events throughout here in Atlanta. You tell me when you got something else that you can announce. I'll spread it to the masses that follow what we're doing here. And I just appreciate you, man.
No, I appreciate you. And yeah, now that I'm in A, we'll get you over to our new office. We got a studio in our Atlanta campus, the only Atlanta campus that has a studio. The great Zaytoven helped us design it. So I got to get you in there and check that out.
Yeah, for sure, man. We're here. And again, like I said, you have anything else community-wide, local or national or international, let us know and we'll spread that information. We got a newsletter. We have this show and we'll bring you back on to talk, man. It's cool kicking it with you.
All right. You as well, man. I appreciate you.
All right. Thank you, my friend.
All right. Peace.
Manny Faces. You sick for this one. Sick for this one. Sick for this one.
I've been mute this whole time. I apologize.